Lauren had always dreamed of motherhood the way some people dream of standing at the ocean's edge at sunset, quiet, golden, and full of promise. At 29, nearly 4 years into her marriage to Ethan, a charismatic attorney who wore his confidence like a tailored suit, she finally thought that dream was within reach. The morning she saw the positive test, her heart soared. Tears filled her eyes, her hands shook, and a smile spread across her face as wide as the horizon. She was going to be a mom. That evening, she prepared a surprise with careful reverence. She chose a soft blue box and placed inside the pregnancy test a tiny pair of white baby shoes and a handwritten letter spilling her joy. She set the box on the dining table, lit candles, and cooked Ethan's favorite pasta, the smell of garlic and basil filling the air. Every few minutes, she brushed her palm over her still flat stomach, imagining the life growing inside her. When Ethan came home, she expected tears, a tight embrace, maybe laughter echoing through the house. Instead, he opened the box with a flat expression, scanned her letter without a flicker of emotion, and muttered a single word. Later. No hug. No kiss. Just a tired excuse about work before disappearing into the bedroom. The candles flickered, but the warmth had vanished. Doubt sank its claws into her heart for the first time. In the weeks that followed, Ethan drifted further and further away. He worked late, clung to his phone like a lifeline, and avoided every mention of the baby. Lauren tried to keep her hope alive, but his silence slowly chipped away at everything they had built together. One night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., Lauren woke to an empty side of the bed. A faint glow spilled from under the office door down the hall. Curious, she tiptoed closer and froze. His voice on the phone made her blood run cold. She doesn't suspect anything. She can't wait to hold the baby, but tomorrow I'll give her the tea. That mix I got will make it look natural. She'll lose the baby. Her knees nearly gave out. She clamped a hand over her mouth to stop herself from screaming. He wasn't just distant, he was planning to take her baby. Shaking, she crept back to bed, heart hammering, and lay stiff beneath the sheets until dawn. The next morning, Ethan acted as though nothing had happened. He even brought her a cup of chamomile tea, his smile faint and practiced. Lauren stared at it, every nerve on fire. She refused it, murmuring that she didn't feel well. Inside, a decision had already taken root. She had to escape. That afternoon, under the pretense of visiting her parents, she packed a bag with clothes, important documents, prenatal records, and her phone. She tucked the untouched tea into a sealed container. She would have it tested. She needed proof. Her parents' home outside Spokane became her refuge. James and Mary welcomed her with open arms. When she finally revealed the truth, Mary trembled with rage, her hands shaking as though she might storm out and confront Ethan herself. James, usually calm and deliberate, sat silently for a long moment before growling. "That man tried to kill my grandchild." His fists clenched white. The next morning, they met with Ryan, the family's trusted lawyer. Lauren filed a police report, requested a restraining order, and began divorce proceedings. Ethan's response was venomous, texts full of accusations, claims that the baby wasn't his, and promises that she would regret humiliating him. But the evidence mounted. The lab confirmed the tea contained abortive toxins. Lauren's case strengthened, and with every flutter of movement in her belly, her resolve deepened. She had already chosen a name, Henry. Life under her parents' roof was safer, but not peaceful. Ethan's threats arrived almost daily. "If that baby's born, I'll take him from you. You have no idea who you're dealing with." Fear shadowed her nights, but determination burned brighter. Mary never left her side, and James reinforced the property, asking neighbors to keep watch. Still, loneliness crept in. Henry was both the fruit of betrayal and her greatest hope. At night, when tears slid silently down her cheeks, she felt him kick, tiny reassurances whispering, "Don't give up, Mom. I'm here." A month before Henry's due date, Ethan made his boldest move yet. He stormed onto her parents' porch, shouting about his rights and demanding custody. James stood firm in the doorway, while Mary raised her phone, ready to call the police. Red-faced, Ethan finally retreated into the night. Lauren didn't waver. This was no longer about a broken marriage. It was survival. Then, on a cold night, labor pains began. James drove them to Portland, gripping the wheel, eyes glistening but steady, while Mary squeezed Lauren's hand, whispering prayers through tears. Hours later, inside Oregon Health and Science University Hospital, at 3:14 a.m., Henry entered the world, crying with a strength that silenced every fear. Lauren cradled him, a single tear washing years of pain away. She was no longer just a wounded wife. She was a mother. And mothers, when pushed to the edge, become warriors. Weeks passed in a blur of sleepless nights and tender beginnings, while the legal storm raged on. Then fate twisted the knife. Ethan was diagnosed with a rare, aggressive autoimmune disease. His only hope was a stem cell transplant from a compatible donor. His father wasn't a match. His mother was gone. He had no siblings. His last chance was Henry. Instead of remorse, Ethan responded with rage, demanding access, sending furious messages. "You owe me this. He's my son too." When Lauren refused, he dragged her to court, petitioning for mandatory testing and procedures on an infant only months old. He played the role of a desperate father before Judge Jackson. Lauren came prepared. She presented lab results, the hateful texts, and the audio recording of Ethan's midnight call. The courtroom went silent as Ethan's voice played. "Tomorrow I'll give her the tea. She'll lose the baby." Gasps rippled through the room. Ethan sat pale and frail in a dark suit that hung loosely on his weakened frame. Emily, polished and perfectly made up, perched beside him, face neutral but hands fidgeting. Across the aisle, Lauren sat upright, Henry asleep against her chest, her parents solid behind her, Ryan steady at her side. Ethan's lawyers pleaded for compassion, claiming Henry was his father's only chance. But Ryan countered with the evidence, painting a clear picture. This wasn't a plea for survival. It was manipulation from a man who once plotted to end his own child's life. Lauren stood. Her voice trembled at first, then grew strong, carrying through the hushed courtroom. "When I found out I was pregnant, I thought I had everything. But the man I trusted tried to kill me and our son. He isn't here out of love. He's here because he needs something. But my child is not a cure. He's not redemption. He is a person, not a punishment or a tool." Her words landed like stones in a still pond, silence stretching so deep you could hear every breath. Judge Jackson adjusted his glasses and spoke firmly. No procedure could be forced on Henry without Lauren's consent. Furthermore, all evidence would be forwarded for criminal prosecution against Ethan and Emily. Ethan collapsed into his chair, pale and trembling. Emily, seething, stormed out. Lauren exhaled a long, freeing breath, as if the weight of years had finally begun to lift. 2 weeks later, Emily showed up at Lauren's parents' home in Spokane. The sight of her was jarring. Her hair tangled, her blouse wrinkled, streaks of mascara marking her cheeks like dark rivers of regret. Mary's hand shot toward the door, fury flashing in her eyes, but Lauren stepped forward. Her heart raced, cautious but curious. "What are you doing here?" she asked softly, holding Henry close. Emily's voice cracked. "I never thought it would come to this," she said, each word cutting her like a knife. "I swear I never wanted to hurt you or the baby. He made me believe it was just some plan, some twisted fantasy he would never carry out. But he lied. He cheated on me, and yesterday I found out he planned to leave me if he survived. I thought you should know." Her hand trembled as she pulled a small USB drive from her purse, placing it on the table like a poisoned gift. "It has recordings, emails, proof. Ethan didn't just want to end the pregnancy. That tea wasn't only meant for Henry. It was meant to kill you too. I don't expect forgiveness. But maybe now you'll finally get justice." Without waiting for a response, Emily turned and walked out, swallowed by the fading autumn light. It felt as if the last fragile tie to Lauren's old life had snapped. Lauren stared at the flash drive in her palm, its metal cool against her skin. It was both weapon and verdict. Emily's visit struck like lightning from a cloudy sky, unexpected, violent, but illuminating. Lauren didn't fully trust her, not after everything, but in that broken voice, there was something raw, almost believable. This wasn't remorse driving Emily. It was revenge. And for once, that revenge was aimed at Ethan. That very night, Lauren, her father James, and her attorney Ryan drove to the Spokane police station. The air outside was bitter, their breath fogging in the glow of the streetlights as they carried the evidence inside. Together, they filed a new statement, sliding the USB drive across the counter to the officer in charge. As investigators played its contents, the room grew heavy. Ethan's voice filled the speakers, calm, calculating, speaking with a man identified only as his contact in the recordings. "We'll get rid of two obstacles in one strike," Ethan said coldly. "If the infusion doesn't work, I have another plan. I can't let her have that child, Ryan. I can't lose everything over this. You know what to do. I want both of them out of the picture." Lauren's stomach twisted. Each word was a dagger. This wasn't just an attempt to end her pregnancy, it was a plan for double homicide. Ethan hadn't just wanted Henry gone. He had wanted her gone too. The prosecutor's office moved quickly. With the new evidence, the case accelerated. Weeks later, Ethan was formally charged with attempted aggravated homicide against his pregnant wife and unborn child. The defense scrambled, portraying him as fragile, mentally unstable, weakened by illness. But the recordings were ice-cold, methodical, undeniable. Lauren no longer had to speak about his cruelty. The evidence spoke for itself. Meanwhile, Ethan's health collapsed. He was admitted to a private clinic in Portland. Once obsessed with appearances, his suits sharp, shoes polished, he now lay hooked to oxygen, unable to walk, fed through tubes. His jawline sagged, his voice reduced to a whisper. Emily stopped visiting. No one came. The man who once thrived on power and reputation now wasted away in silence, surrounded only by sterile white walls and the hum of machines. On the other side of the story, life blossomed. Henry turned one. His bright, curious eyes, dark like his mother's, and his radiant smile could light up the whole house. Every laugh, every wobbly step, every babbled word reminded Lauren that they had survived. Life itself seemed to whisper through him, "You won." But fate wasn't finished. In mid-October, a letter arrived from the Multnomah County Courthouse. Ethan had left a will. To everyone's surprise, he had written Henry's name on every line. Properties, bank accounts, investments, even the cars. All of it was left to the child he had once tried to destroy. His lawyer claimed it was an attempt at redemption. Lauren knew better. This wasn't repentance. It was desperation, Ethan's final attempt to avoid vanishing into obscurity. She accepted it, not for the wealth, but for the justice of it. That inheritance no longer belonged to Ethan. It belonged to Henry. He would grow up knowing life had tried to erase him before he even took his first breath. But he had survived, and now he had everything. Ethan's final days dragged on in quiet misery. His body wasted, his breaths rattling through tubes, eyes fixed on the ceiling as if waiting for forgiveness that would never come. One night, his heart failed. Doctors revived him briefly, but hours later, another arrest struck. This time he didn't come back. Ethan died alone. No goodbyes, no flowers, no tears. That same night, Lauren sat in her parents' living room, Henry nestled against her chest as she read him a bedtime story. When the phone rang with the news, she didn't flinch. She simply closed the book, kissed her son's forehead, and whispered, "It's over." The funeral was as cold as his death. Few attended. No heartfelt tributes, no genuine tears. The man who had once sought to control everything left the world with nothing, forgotten, hollow, powerless. For Lauren, the end was not only closure, it was freedom. With Ethan's assets, she made deliberate choices. She sold everything he had left behind, turning his legacy of greed into something meaningful. She created an educational fund for Henry, but she didn't stop there. She used part of it to help other mothers scarred by violence and betrayal. She founded a nonprofit, the Liberty Foundation, giving talks, raising awareness, and offering hope to women who thought they had none. What had begun as her deepest nightmare became her greatest strength. Lauren had walked through fire, carrying her son in her arms, and instead of letting it consume her, she built something new. A life where Henry could grow knowing his mother hadn't just survived. She had thrived. She had turned their survival into light for others. The same woman who once crouched in a bathroom, trembling with fear, imagining death lurking behind every corner, now taught others how to live. Pain, she had discovered, could be transformed into purpose. Every scar, every sleepless night, every heartbeat that had once carried terror now became a lesson, a message. Survival was possible and life could be reclaimed. Lauren's days settled into a rhythm, not frantic, not dictated by fear, but steady, measured, human. Even amid the chaos of raising Henry as a single mother, there was clarity, a sense of meaning that had once seemed impossible. Tears had a purpose. Exhaustion was out of love, and every morning offered a fragile, beautiful chance to begin again. With Henry's inheritance as her seed, Lauren's Liberty Foundation grew, offering legal, psychological, and practical support to women facing domestic violence, abuse, or partner betrayal. The organization started small, humble, but the need was immense, urgent, undeniable. It grew quickly, fueled not just by resources, but by Lauren's unwavering presence, her story, and her courage. Lauren began speaking publicly. She gave radio interviews, spoke at schools and universities, and attended forums where women and young girls came searching for guidance, courage, and hope. Her story, told without embellishment, every scar visible, every emotion raw, became more than a personal account. It became a symbol of resilience. She never framed herself as a victim. She was always a survivor. That subtle shift in perspective changed how the world saw her. Women of all ages came to the Liberty Foundation seeking help, advice, or simply someone to witness their struggle. And every time Lauren offered more than guidance. She offered perspective, strength, and, above all, proof that life could continue after unimaginable betrayal. And Henry, the child who had once been marked for death, was now the reason countless other lives were being saved. Henry thrived in a home filled with love. His room overflowed with books, toys, and photographs capturing family moments frozen in time. James and Mary were present for every milestone, every scraped knee, every bedtime story. Henry's laughter echoed through the house, bright, musical, unstoppable, a constant reminder that survival was more than endurance. It was joy reclaimed. One night, as she tucked him into bed, Lauren whispered, "The only real villain we ever knew was the past. But we beat it, son." As Henry grew, so did his curiosity. He asked about his father, Ethan, and Lauren answered with honesty tempered for a child's understanding. She explained that Ethan had made terrible choices that almost destroyed them. But he had also left a small legacy, the chance to live differently. It wasn't out of love, she said, but out of responsibility, a final acknowledgement of consequences. Through these conversations, Henry learned that family wasn't just the people who gave you life, it was the people who nurtured and protected it. Years later, on a sunlit spring morning, Lauren stood backstage at a major international women's rights conference in Mexico City. The auditorium stretched wide, packed with young women, activists, journalists, and advocates, all eager to hear the story of someone who had stared death in the face and survived. Lauren stood tall, her posture quiet but commanding. Henry was at her side, wearing a crisp little blue jacket, his eyes wide with pride and curiosity. When the microphone was placed before her, Lauren's gaze found only her son. She drew a deep breath, steadying her voice. "My name is Lauren Gutierrez," she began, calm and measured but charged with emotion. "I survived an attempted femicide. My ex-husband tried to kill me with poison tea to cover the double life he was living with his lover. He also tried to end my son's life before he was even born. But we survived. My son was born. And today, we are proof that pain does not define us. What defines us is what we do with it." The audience rose as one, the applause echoing through the vast auditorium. Henry looked up at his mother, pride and love shining in his young eyes. In that moment, Lauren was more than a survivor. She was the voice for hundreds, for thousands, for anyone still searching for a way out of darkness. The story that had begun with the sweet thrill of pregnancy, only to descend into betrayal, fear, poison, and near tragedy, had arrived where it was always meant to reach, a new beginning. For Lauren, life was no longer defined by what had almost destroyed her. It was defined by each fresh day, each small victory, each chance to create hope from the ashes of her past. You just heard this one from Stories by Sue. If it resonated, don't forget to like and subscribe. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments. I'd love to hear. Thanks for watching.